how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today's tutorial, I'm going to be doing a server invite background for Discord. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's essentially a banner that will appear in the web browser. Whenever somebody types your invite link, it's going to show up as that background instead of the default one that Discord sets. Now, I have a whole video covering how to do this, but if you have server banners unlocked, which is tier 1 of boosting, if you just come over to overview, it's going to be right here at the bottom, or sorry, at the top of the bottom section. Server invite background, you just click upload and you are good to go. And for server boosting, as you can see right here, custom server invite background is a level 1 perk, which I believe you only need 2 boosts to unlock. Now, this design I have one regret about, and that was with the confetti. I couldn't find any confetti I really liked, and to actually get it into a position, or at least modify an existing confetti into a position that would look well, would take quite a bit of time, and I'll show you how to go about doing that further in the video, but I'll also show a quick example here. So essentially you have one layer of confetti, like so. We'll come over to the lasso tool. We lasso over a certain section, and we can either do Ctrl J, or we can take it and hold Alt while we're on the move tool and just drag it just like that, and it'll duplicate it for us. And here we can move it around, do Ctrl T to rotate it, so on and so forth. And as you can imagine, this will take quite a bit of time to organize around into a way that you like. And then of course the other difficulty is getting colors that work well. I'm still not too happy with these colors. Some of the purples don't fit that well. Ideally, I like to keep it to shades of blue and green, but that would take quite a bit of messing around. As you saw, I got some of it here. There's some greens, some blues, but there's also other undesirable colors mixed in. So if I were you, once you have this, I'm going to include, I think, 5-ish options for confetti, but if you want to search on your own, you can also just search it like this, confetti PNG. In images, click tools, click large for the size, and make sure it's transparent, and you'll find quite a few options, though again, probably nothing exactly like what you're looking for, but you can always modify it around to get it how you want it to look. And just keep in mind, make sure it's a checkerboard background, and it's a real checkerboard, because some of these, like see this one down here, if it shows a checkerboard in the thumbnail before you even click on it, that's a fake checkerboard. They're baiting you. It's not actually transparent, so just keep that in mind. Now, without any further delay, let's just jump right into this tutorial. Now we're going to start off by going to File, New, and the size we want for this is 1920 by 1080. So as you can see, a typical web browser size. Let's click Create. Now we're going to click the plus in the corner. We're going to delete this background, and you also notice in this bottom right corner I also have my shortcut keys that I'm using popping up on screen, so it should be a bit easier to follow along if I forget to mention a shortcut. Now the colors we're going to be using for this initial backgrounds is the following. Yep, I did a lot of copies there. I was copying the hex code from my other window because there's no way I'm going to remember these hex codes. So once you have that hex code pasted in, pause if you have to get that number. We're going to go over to our paint bucket tool on this left side, hold down left click if you don't see it there to pop up more options, and then select it. And then once we're on the first layer, we're just going to place that down. Now we're going to double click, call this backgrounds. Let's do Ctrl G, double click once again, and let's call this the base area. Let's right click on the eyeball and make that red. Now we can collapse this for the time being because we're going to create a new layer. We're going to group that as well, and we'll call this the center section. And let's make this yellow just to keep ourselves organized. And here we're going to be using the following blue. Pause again if you need to get that hex code. And the way we're going to do this is with the pen tool. So ideally we want it to be from about here, with some space across the top to about here at a diagonal. Not too much of a diagonal though. All right, that should be good. And now we want to come down to about there. And let's go about here. Yep, that should be a pretty decent diagonal. Let's click up, then right click, make selection, click OK, then Shift F5. Let's go over to color and make sure we have this blue selected. And let's drop that down. Though right as I said that, I realized we don't actually want to use this blue right at the start. We're just going to duplicate that. In this first one, we're going to be going into the blending options by right clicking on it. We're going to go into color overlay, and let's make sure that is white. Then right click, rasterize layer style. And this one, we're going to transform down just a tad. So make sure we're adjusting proportionally. And I am quite happy with the gap there. Maybe a tiny bit more. Perfect. And then with the move tool, you can either use it by holding shift and adjusting with your mouse to get it to move on a certain axis. Okay, and then we can move this up or down as well, just using our arrow keys. And that is also popping up on the corner. Now, as you can see, it doesn't quite reach to the end anymore. So what we have to come in and do is come back to the pen tool. Let's click about here, and it might take a few attempts, but we're gonna try to get this to go across as it would if it actually reached still. So we'll come about here, go about there. Oh, not that far. And the reason I'm leaving a gap at the top is so I can go and do the same thing up there. Right click, make selection, and let's fill that in as well. And then final part, let's click around here. Nope, that's too far. That might work. And then let's do Shift F5. Yeah, I think there's a little... Yeah, that's fine. Now let's call this the white, and let's call this the blue. Now on this white layer, we're gonna go right click and go into blending options. We're gonna go to drop shadow, and the settings we want are 46, 9, 0, and 7. Click OK there. Now we want to drag in our little sun rays, so go ahead and do just that. Now normally I would say it's a very bad thing to take a smaller image and blow it way out of proportion, but because of the settings we're going to apply to this, it's not going to be as big of a deal. So I went ahead and adjusted that. Now to clip this on, either right click, create clipping mask, or hold Alt, and between them click down. And the settings we're going to put on this one are linear lights. Linear lights with an opacity of about 80%. Looks a little janky now, I admit, but we're going to be putting text over it momentarily. And let's just call this the rays. Let's collapse this. And actually, we can come all down to the bottom again. And not me, I do Control X. We can add little ziggy lines. So let's create a new layer. Let's do Control G. And to start out, this is going to be a little bothersome to get lines up, but never fear, I am here to show you how to get that accomplished. So we're going to start on a bit of a small side, just in case we want to adjust again in the future. So I'm going to go with about that. I'm going to do Control J, Control T, and we're going to adjust this all the way there, but then bring it up 15 degrees. Click OK, and if you just hold Shift, you don't even have to look at the degrees. If you hold Shift and go all the way to the left, it's going to go to 90 degrees. If you just bring it up one and adjust it by 15 degrees for you. So you don't even have to worry about making sure the degrees are completely accurate. And let's just adjust this using the Move tool and make sure it lines up correctly. Now, one more time, Control J, Control T, bring it all the way to vertical, and then once to the right to give it a tilt. Let's bring this over here, and using our arrow keys once again to adjust, we have a nice clean angle. Let's bring this all down, Control J, Control T, once again bring it all the way horizontal, then add 15 degrees and move it here. Make sure the corner lines up. Control J, Control T. And yes, I am going a bit excessive, but that's so we don't have a pattern that ends short, which would be very unfortunate. Let's actually delete this one at the bottom. And then we'll do it one more time. The pattern is almost complete. We're going to take this, Control J, Control T. I'm going to make it completely horizontal at 15 degrees. And we shall go to the corner. And then final time, just as a fail-safe, completely vertical, 15 degrees. And let's drag it to the corner. Now, we can take all of this. And I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but there's a Properties tab you can pop up if you don't already see it. Go over to Window, go down to Properties, click it. It'll show up right here underneath Untitled 1, but you can also drag to Side and Dock it. And there you have the exact sizing for each of these shapes in terms of the width and the height. But in this case, it didn't really matter. Though I guess it would be easier for you to follow along if you have the exact numbers. So that's from here. I'm going to click all the way at the bottom while holding Shift to select all of them. Then right click, merge shapes, right click, and rasterize layer. Now Control T, and we're just going to make this straight like that. Oh, might take a little bit of adjusting. Not really. I just adjusted it twice to the right, so 30 degrees. And now we're going to align this on the left side. And I'm actually going to hide this current center section. Otherwise, when I'm lining it up with the Photoshop's automatic alignment tool or alignment options, alignment settings, whatever it's called, it's not going to interfere with it. Now I'm going to do Control J, and I'm going to move it out about that far. Control J and do the same thing. Not that distance. That's about 44 pixels it says I'm doing. Now to speed up the process, I'm going to select all of it and do Control J. And now see, it's telling me 44 pixels, so I'm keeping myself accurate throughout the entire process. And one last time, go all the way over there. Now I'm going to right click and let's just, yeah, we can merge it. It'll make less layers for us. And let's do Control G. And let's just call this the bottom zig. And then let's re-show the center section. Let's do Control J. And let's call this the top zag. Zigzag. Yeah, I'm a comedian. What you gonna do about it? And as you can see, we're kind of going to do the alternative to what we did down here. At the top over here, these arrows point to the right, and the bottom ones, sorry, right, left, right, left. Here we're going to do left, right. Probably easier if I look at it that way. Left, right, left. Just so it looks as if it's kind of the opposite of the bottom. Then bring it down a bit. As you saw over there on the right side, or you might have seen that, it was a bit too high up. There we go. And now that background is done. However, I'm going to select both of these, do Control J, and I'm going to group this and call this the backup. I'm going to hide that. It feels a little too small for me, so what we can do is Control T and just adjust this. Make them a bit larger, and I'm personally happier with how this looks. Now I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to create a new layer. Let's do Control G. Let's call this the text. Hopefully I can do this entire edit in one take, as I have so far, because editing is, oh my goodness, not fun for longer videos. Alright, let's take this and go with drop down, and we'll call this the just Suke. And I'm going to show you why in a second, but we're going to keep most of the graphics focused on the right side. Now, the font is going to be Porky's, and of course, I'm going to have this linked in the description. The color we want is white. Let's just click OK for now. Control T, and let's blow this way up. I'm going to rotate it a bit. And I don't have a specific angle, though I guess you can just look up here. It's 7.28 right now. But I just want this to align with the curve over the bottom here. Words escape me. Perfect. And now I'm going to right click, blending options. We're going to add a stroke. The stroke, I probably want around 8 pixels. No, I want it larger than that. 10 pixels, and we're going to add a drop shadow as well. And the drop shadow we want going in that direction. And I am happy with these settings. Let's collapse that to make it a bit hidden. And let's readjust this one more time, just so it fits a bit better. I am pleased with that, sort of. Here's my move tool. Move it down just a wee bit. Perfect. Now create a new layer once again. This time we're going to be using, click over here. We'll be doing Discord server. And then, of course, you can just honestly have whatever you want here. This is essentially, just consider it placeholder text. I'm using animate ace. And let's bring this over here. And I'm going to have this one smaller because I don't want it to be the focus. I want the focus to be that Tsuke text or your Discord server name. Let's drop that right around there. And of course, you want to drop shadow on this as well. Let's go ahead and add one of those. Let's bring back the distance. Perfect. Now, this is why we want to have most of the stuff going on the right side. As you can see, its left side is completely swallowed up by the Discord void. So any text or such that you have on that side is not going to be showing up. In fact, the server invite background I'm using for my own server isn't really showing up that well. And the reason it's so pixelated is because this display is 2K 2560 by 1440. So it's being stretched out to really accommodate that space. But in general, it looks fine minus this big blobbed out section. So with that in mind, now you know why everything is going to be focused on the right side for the most part. We'll add some stuff to the left just so in the off chance it does show up, we don't just see empty nothingness. So let's close this. And we are going to drag in our star. Star we'll put right around here. Control T, let's adjust the star down. Let's rotate it and we'll drop it right there. Now I'm gonna go into blending options. I wanna add a gradient overlay. And the two colors I wanna use are the two colors that already exist on the star. This one, I'm holding I, by the way. That is a lot of counters going up. Anyway, I'm holding I for the eyedropper tool. I'm gonna click. I'm gonna do X. Not XS, just X. As you can see on this left side over here, that is swapping between colors. So I'm Xing to where the blue is now. I'm gonna hold I again, and I'm just gonna click. And now I have two different shades of yellow. And I'm gonna right click, a blending options, gradient overlay, and there's all my yellows. And if you don't see it pop up right away, and I'm pretty sure it did for me because I just did that template, but under basic, it'll be that first one right there. Or if that doesn't work, just click this one, go to color and click the first color, then go to the very end, click and pick the second color. So okay, I'm happy with those settings. I want to add a stroke, about 5 pixels, and then a drop shadow that doesn't go too far out. Okay, actually I want a bit more of a drop shadow. It looked pretty good when I was zoomed in, but when I zoomed out it was not as nice, I will admit. Alright, this is star. Is this Patrick? No, I got the meme wrong. Anyway, Control J, and we're going to bring the star to the bottom. And we're going to do Control G now that it's out of any other groups. We're going to put it in its own separate group. Right click, make it violet, and we'll call this miscellaneous decor. Let's do Control G. Let's just call this stars. So this first star, we're going to move to about there. Control T, make it a bit smaller. And one star here. Control J, Control T. Let's put one star right around here. Control J, Control T. One star right about there. Control J, Control T. And then, of course, one little teeny weeny star right around there. And that's essentially the bulk of the design for the left side. Just a little something, so it's not just a blue void. Perfect. So the stars are there. Now we're going to move on to the socials. After the socials, it's just the confetti left. For such a simple banner, I don't know how we got to 20 minutes. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to call this the socials section. Right click on the eyeball. Let's make this orange. Now we're going to use two different colors. White, of course, as the base. And as for the purple, we're going to be using this one right here. Pause if you have to. Now the rectangle tool, I'm holding down again to pop this up. I'm going to go to rounded rectangle. I'm going to drag this across about yay far. I'm going to add a bit of a curve. Not so much that it curves all the way across. There's still some flat space. That's just so the edges themselves are nice and curved. Let's make it a bit taller this time around. Alright, like that. I'm going to do Control J. I'm going to make this purple now. And we're just going to adjust this down. Let's zoom in a bit. Control T. Let's play around with that until it is centered. Let's just fix the curve so the curve lines up a bit better. And voila. Now let's call this the purple. And let's call this the white. Let's do both of these, holding shift clicking, or you can control click, and we'll call this the base. Let's create a new layer and we'll drag in each of our icons. So first Twitter. Hey, where'd you go? Twitter, Instagram, Discord. Now right click, let's go to color overlay. And let's make that white. Now copy layer style, right click, rasterize layer style, paste layer style on the Twitter logo, right click, rasterize layer style. Let's call this Twitter icon, Insta icon, and Discord icon. Now Discord, we'll call this, Insta, and we'll call this one Twitter. Now we're going to hide those two for now. Let's get Twitter adjusted down first. Make sure that is in position. Alright, I think I did a pretty good job of lining those up. I just skipped the process because it don't really need to watch that. So Discord, let's go ahead and click down. We're going to be using Anime Ace, and we'll just put Suke here. Once again, just placeholder text, don't worry too much about it. Make sure that is centered, then Control J, let's move this into Insta, let's collapse that. This one will be Suke once again, and then Control J one last time, bring this into Twitter, and Suke. And then, of course, depending on how long your handles are, you can either have just two socials or make it larger or smaller to accommodate longer social handle names. Now I'm going to take all of these three, do Control G, right click, go to blending options, and let's add us a nice drop shadow. Beautiful. Alright, and now we're on the final section, the confetti. Let's just call it social stuff. That's nothing. And let's make sure this isn't too far down, because if it's too far down, it's going to be, has a potential to be cut off and nobody will see it. If you want to completely avoid that, you can just move the center section up as well. We can actually go ahead and do that now, I think. Yep, let's just move this up a little bit. Let's take the social section and move it right around there. Cool. Now we have the sun rays out the way, star shape, and here's the confetti. The part you've all been waiting for, I am sure. Now here we're going to do Control G and call this the confit. And these are adjustments I made just to make it look a bit better. Feel free to try something else, but I went to image and then or was it image adjustments, and then inverts, and then image adjustments, and I went to channel mixer. Where are you at? Channel mixer, and I applied the following settings. I did 107 here, I did negative 117 here, and then for blue I did 87 and 32 for the contrast. Though of course you can tinker around with it yourself more to try to get a more desirable effect. So let's bring this down, and the first confetti can go, decisions. And actually I want this confetti to be above the center section, so let's put it with miscellaneous decor. Control G and the confit. Oh, and below the stars. I do not want the stars to be underneath that. So we can put one here. And then from here, I'd honestly just adjust until you are happy with the positioning. So that'll be the left corner. Let's do Control J, Control T. Let's rotate this thing around. And totally not cheating, looking at my past work. I would never do such a thing. Not really cheating, but Let's move that down. Let's put that there. Let's go to the lasso and delete all of this. You don't want it. It might be cool to bring some of this down and mingle it around, but I'll let you mess around with that on your own. I don't want that one there either. And then we can take this right corner, Control J, and then Control T, and we can move this to here. And I'm just gonna remove this part because I don't really like that. And I'm just gonna leave it at this. I showed you how to adjust it. You just got the lasso tool and move it around, do Control J. It's gonna result in a lot of layers, a lot of time. But if you spend the time to make it look nice, it will turn out really well. And it might be nice as well for you to mess around with the overall color scheme, to personalize it a bit, maybe add in anime characters or other characters as you see fit, as maybe a background here or popping up on the top there, just whatever you think would look nice. And to actually save this, we do File, Export, Save for Web. And I recommend you choose this method because Discord is super picky as to the sizing of things that you upload. If you do a regular save, it might be too large, in which case you have to find another way to compress it. And compression sites normally don't compress it in as high of quality as Photoshop does itself with the Save for Web option. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this useful, and have an awesome day.